Hello everyone and welcome to the Monster Report, and we are here with a guest of mine on the Monster Report. His name is Joao, and Joao is going to join me for today's box day. Before we get to our unboxing today, we kind of wanted to introduce Joao because we have a show that's separate from the Monster Report. Actually, it's one that we just got started called Galaxy of Fiction, and Joao's got a little background in some online media. Tell us a little about what you kind of do too.
Yeah, I'll get to the media in just a second, so all you guys can follow us and all that good stuff, and make sure you know when we get those new episodes out. But I'm real lucky to be working with Nick, just one of the most knowledgeable, just cinephile, just every geekdom, nerdom, fandom, just one of my favorite people I've ever met to talk to about it. Just because like I always say, it's hard to meet those people that line up with you personally, and you kind of can have those conversations. And so that's why I'm really excited about Galaxy of Fiction, which is going to be a YouTube show. So if you're watching this show, you're already on the right website. You just got to go click on a different link. So make sure to follow us and subscribe. It's YouTube. Just search Galaxy of Fiction, and we'll come up. I think there might be another one out there, but it's not up and running at the moment. So we stole their name.
Yeah, definitely search us on Galaxy of Fiction. You'll find us out there, and I got a link to it as well on this YouTube channel.
Right.
So at the bottom of this in the section below in the description, I'll have a link to this the Galaxy of Fiction show. So definitely subscribe to that.
And I'm sure he'll probably put it right up here. But we got the Instagram is it's right here. It's Galaxy of Fiction on Instagram, and then we've just got Galaxy Fiction on Twitter, right?
Yep,
At Galaxy Fiction. There's no of in that one, so follow us there. And it's just going to be as we build up, maybe we can have some conversations with people out there. But for the time being, I think it's just kind of a way to promote our channel. But as things grow, we'll see where all that ends up going. But yeah, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. We're going to be doing a Spaceballs show right after we're done recording this, a retro review of Spaceballs. So, and then we're going to be doing some Pokemon unboxing of some toys. But and we already did the best fights in movies, and those episodes, they haven't even all come out yet. So we've got content rolling out. We've got stuff recorded, and we're going to be doing more in the future. But I'm glad to be on the Monster Report for the first time.
That's right. And Joe, it doesn't really come from maybe the monster background, but the mostly the sci-fi Star Wars kind of background, and I'm a Star Wars fan, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, you're a Monster fan, you're a Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan. There's a ton of entertainment, sci-fi, fantasy, fiction, entertainment, movies, books, music. We're going to talk about all of that, and that's why I kind of wanted to open up that show with somebody, because there's a lot of other stuff I like as well as the monsters, but I wanted to kind of have someone to bounce ideas off of, and it's like, well, why don't we just start a show? And it kind of went from there.
It's hard to find that crossover of fandom, because you might find, this person's a Star Wars fan too. Well, do you like this? Do you like that too? Kind of, maybe. I think we've got kind of a lot of things in common, so I think that it's going to make for a good variety show. We'll definitely be talking Star Wars on it, and many other things. We talked a lot of Matrix last time, and a lot of Lord of the Rings a little bit, and all kinds of different movies, even movies that you wouldn't consider genre movies, like Man on Fire, and some of these other movies that aren't in the geek fandom, but if it's a good movie, I think we'll talk about it.
Even talking Rocky and sports movies and all that. But we're here today because I turned 37 not too long ago, so I got a little birthday gift from my wife, my father-in-law, my parents, that she kind of gets all of them together to get kind of a big gift for me. So she always goes all out on these X Plus figures, because I'm a big fan of X Plus. So today it is a box day for the 2003 mechagodzilla, also known as Kiryu, from the 2003 Godzilla against Mechagodzilla film. Now Joe he's going to have kind of a learning curve here, guys. So bear with him. He's kind of a monster fan in the making. I'm working on my monster ministry with him to eventually get us a new kaiju kind of fan out here. But maybe he'll become a collector like I am. All these X Plus figures. If you saw some of the other episodes I have, we've got the Tokyo SOS Kiryu figure as well. So this episode we're going to be kind of comparing these two, because when I did get this and got it out of the fragile box that it was shipped in, and I said, I've got that figure already. Oh wait, no, I don't have that figure. Actually, I was fooled because it's got the extra backpack on it, which of course you'll see when we get her unboxed. But yeah, this is the unboxing episode. We're gonna open them up and check them out, and these figures, your kind of background with any of these collectible figures is
I mostly did some of the Star Wars stuff back in the day, but busts, statues. Mm-hmm. So I mean, with any of these highly popular genres out there, they've all got their marketing, they've all got their toys you can buy, and some of them are more expensive than others. So so I do have some background. I mean, I've collected something throughout my entire life. When I was a kid, it was baseball cards. So I definitely come from that geeky kind of collecting background, and it's always, hey, what's going to be my new passion? What's going to be the new thing I want to collect for a little while and enjoy it, and then see what happens. You grow up, your taste evolves. So I'm interested to see this guy. I see this guy right here, so I'm interested to see how he compares. In comparison.
Let's get this guy out, and he's going to breathe some fresh air and see what he looks like. See how he stands up and holds up. And when you get these figures, part of the collection is actually the box it comes in, because the box art. A lot of the guys, find different ways of, because you could be a collector of these and have just a whole basement or, closet full of these boxes. I tell you what I do, guys, and maybe you guys kind of do that, or leave a comment in the section below. What you do with your boxes. What I do is I cut the front cover out and get rid of the rest of the box, because that's just too much room. I don't have, enough space. So I just cut that cover art, right off of there with a knife or scissors, and then keep it that way. So yeah, there's that's part of the collection too. It doesn't go in the trash. Wrapped in a lot of plastic. We'll show it to the camera first to check out what he's like in there, and pull him out of there. Go ahead. And we're back, and we've got our 2003 mechagodzilla set up, and already sitting them next to each other. I mean, the obvious differences between them. This guy's got decked out accessories, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was the Boba Fett that came with the rocket launcher, right?
Oh, right, exactly.
So he's got that. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a novice at this. The first thing I did when this tail was still off down in here, I measured it to this one. It's slightly longer. What do we say, about 2 centimeters? It's maybe millimeters. It's barely longer if it is.
So looking at the tails, I would say, and I'm not exactly like the hardcore, collectors, but I would say that the tail probably does not come from the same mold. The two of them are coming from the same mold, that they probably do have separate molds, or maybe they modified the mold, because this one, he's dragging his tail, like you said.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. Yeah, this one, you can't see it on the camera, but this guy's, you can barely see it. I mean, it's kind of, the tail levitates a little, and then this guy here, it's on the table. He's got a few spikes here, or whatever you want to call them, is the bottom portion of his tail that is touching. So there is it's not a different shape, I'd say, but it's definitely a slight difference. And if you're into the collecting of these things, those slight differences, I guess, would make all the difference to you.
They do. They absolutely do. And already looking at them, the color on them, I can see that this 2003 has just a slightly darker chrome kind of color to it.
Right. I didn't know if I should. Yeah. I noticed that too. I didn't know, because maybe this had been sitting out a little longer on display. Maybe if it had faded at all. So I didn't know to point that out or not. But I did notice that.
This has not been that long since I've done this episode. It's possible there's some sun bleaching even going on, but I'd imagine that since there's a lot of handwork that goes into that you're never going to get. Even I'm working on this new bathroom, and we buy tile, and it's like the exact same brand of tile, and it came from a different paint mixture, and because they did it on one day. So if you buy it all together, you get the same paint mixture, and all of it matches very well. If you bought it on one day and the next day they got the paint mixture a little different, you're going to get kind of slightly different results. So I can imagine they didn't quite have the same paint shading and all that for both of them. But what's so cool about this is their attention to detail from the movies. When you look at some of the Godzilla figures, of course he's a man in a suit, so they get the details, even like the folds, wrinkles in the suits that are the things that you might consider imperfections, but for the Godzilla fans, that's gold for us, because they had such the attention to the film that they wanted to match what that would look like. And that's why you always get these figures with like the oversized hips and all. Well, they always have to build the suits with, much larger hips, waist, shoulders, broader shoulders and all that, because a man has to fit in that suit.
Right.
And on top of that, when he is inside the suit, his head is actually in the neck section of any of the Godzillas or Gigan or any of the other monsters. So they're looking through peek holes in the neck of it.
Well, actually, there was this Halloween. I don't know if you saw any kids in the Tyrannosaurus Rex costumes.
Yeah.
They're looking out of the little window right here.
Yeah.
And the head's just up here flopping. That was.
Yeah.
And there were probably a dime a dozen, but I thought that was a funny costume. But speaking of monsters, T-Rex, I couldn't think of a much scarier real one that's ever existed, I guess. I guess he's not real anymore. But at one point, I guess they were real. Right?
At one point. Yeah.
So there's no articulation in these, in the arms or anything.
This one, the arms move. This one does not. Or it may move. I just haven't.
Yeah, I did not want to try to force the issue.
No, I understand. I did that with my Gigan because at that point, up to that point, I didn't have any figure with articulation except for the slight move in the tail. That one articulates. This one does. The arms are a bit on the stiff side, especially when you first unbox it and all, because there's just those little pieces of plastic that kind of need to be worked out. There is no articulation in the mouth. That they kept that consistent. The mouth is just what it is. Some of the Godzilla figures do have hinged mouths. Some fans out there really like that, some don't. The other things I've noticed about this, of course, this one with the drill hand does come with a hand, because in the film his hand collapses together and creates that drill. Well, they didn't do that. They just made a removable hand and a drill that pushes into that the socket, essentially. So I do have the hand sitting on the shelf. This one doesn't have any kind of accessories that remove, of course. The rocket booster pack.
I'll have to get Godzilla in here to knock that off of him, right?
Yeah, and I actually don't have the Godzilla from that 2003, film. I'm still building up my collection.
So on a power level in the Godzilla universe, where is this guy ranking? If I don't know that if you compare it to, I guess you could argue over the Star Wars characters, but if Anakin is the chosen one and is the most potentially powerful, where's this guy ranking in the ranks of the monsters? If I don't even know who the top monster would be, I'm guessing Godzilla, because he eventually beats everybody, doesn't he? But
with Godzilla, he really is only technically defeated by a few monsters. Most of the time, it ends in this kind of.
So this guy was basically when they invented this guy, this is kind of like, I feel like the concept of like the Pacific Rim movies, like the monsters come, let's build artificial robots that are similar in size to these monsters that can physically match up to them. So, everything else, it's just basically, I guess you could, maybe not reboot is not the right word, but everybody's taking everybody's stuff.
The mecha genre, in Japan especially, because there's a mecha everything. They even have a mecha Kong in King Kong Escapes back, in the classic Godzilla and Toho monster series. They have King Kong versus a mecha Kong, actually. And so the mecha genre is not a new thing. It actually goes back way back. And so you see the mecha in a lot of really cool, I'm thinking of some of the animes even that have the mechas and all that. But yeah, Pacific Rim kind of picked up on that idea there. We got to deal with a monster, so let's create our own monsters. This one, they kind of threw a little wrench in the storyline where he is actually built around the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla that was supposed to be, they killed him with an oxygen-destroying weapon, a pseudoscience-y kind of weapon, and the bones were left in the sea, so in 2003, it's assumed that they scavenged those bones and built this around it and has a DNA-style computer, and so he's actually self-driven to fight Godzilla. But what goes wrong is that somehow those bones have memories of being a monster that rampages through the city, so he goes berserk at one point, and they have to fix that little glitch that's built into him. So they fix that, and then he goes up against Godzilla.
Well, that's kind of like, obviously a lot of movies, but the movie that reminds me of right off is like RoboCop. Yes. Where he's built basically on the bones of a man, and then his brain is still kind of, and then they wiped his brain, but they really couldn't get rid of it, and then he starts kind of going I guess, rogue, in a way.
Right.
So I mean, but he's a machine built but underneath is a living organism. So whether how much they can control that or how much they can't control that, I guess, is one of the plot lines of these movies.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they call it the cyborg, actually, in that case, because it's some living, some metal and robotic.
Well, even I would say even though the bones, I guess you wouldn't say are living by our standard, but it's biological, I'd say. So it resonates in the same way, I'd say. I feel like, even though you could get into the semantics of how it's different, but I feel like that it's kind of the same moral of the story there. Maybe. Yeah,
it's the pseudoscience-y kind of way of making this kind of cool concept, not based in any kind of reality, but sounds cool when you write it out in the script. So it's kind of Godzilla versus Godzilla, which is kind of a cool, blow your mind kind of idea, is that he's actually fighting himself, a Borg almost kind of version of himself, cyborg version of himself. So, but yeah, he's got some really cool features to him. I always love the detail they add to these X Plus figures. I've got this figure actually as a Bandai figure, which is on the cheaper kind of end of things. The molds aren't as details. It doesn't, get all these fine details like, all the like cooling fins and all of this. And actually those attention to details, even things like small things like coils, springs. I remember in Rogue One looking at the background of that when they were doing the Stormtroopers. There's in the original, A New Hope, they have the vents on the Stormtroopers, kind of the masks and all that, and that was one of the things the director Gareth Edwards, by the way, who also directed a Godzilla, they were stickers actually in the original A New Hope. They were just slapped on there and not very noticeable, but in his one, of course, they took that detail to the next level and made them actual fins or vents, if you will. And so they would do that, even down to little bolts that make up the make of this, because it's still a machine, so it's still going to have rivets and bolt heads kind of sticking out of it, and so they wanted to keep that, and that's what's so cool about that is texture. You don't get a lot of that in a metallic figures, that texture, but of course in the Godzilla figures, his scales is of course part of that. You can feel that when you pick up the figure, and even in these figures you can feel the fact that they did not put they did not go on the cheap with things, with just creating a mold. And sometimes when you have the molds, there's these little edges that where the plastic, when it cools and all that, spreads out just a little bit. Well, they've taken care of that in these molds, actually, so that doesn't come across, actually. You always get those in kind of the, like I said, the Walmart kind of toys that are out there. And there's nothing wrong with those toys. It's just how they are, because to keep the price down. The price, on these X Plus figures it's X Plus. It's extra, extra high price, but you're paying for the quality, and of course this is not going to be played with by my children. This is going to sit on the shelf, and it's just going to be for our enjoyment. They call it a garage toy on the box, believe it or not. Garage toy. This is not going to be in my garage. No. Not anyway, not anyhow. But yeah, you definitely got the shading there on the legs, kind of where two metal pieces will gather together. And why that's there, likely it's on film that way. And so whether that was meant to be, something seen or not, whoever sculpted this decided to put that detail into it, actually. And so yeah, that's what makes that collectability of it, go higher. And of course, it's got parts that could easily break. Another reason the kids aren't going to play with it. So yeah. Anyways, that's your first unboxing for a kaiju figure. What do you think so far?
Yeah, I like the quality of it. It's obviously just the the same I've seen in the past, as far as there's these great companies out there that are making quality products, and like you say, you have to pay for the quality product. You're gonna pay a little more, but I think what you're gonna get in the end is something that you're gonna want to hold on to, and it's not something, well, if the kids play with it or get a hold of it or it gets in the dog's mouth, if it's something from Walmart, oh well, not the end of this. You're gonna try to take a little bit more care of, and and just the differences, even though he's literally the same guy, But I mean, I can tell sitting here the color differences and the way it's been painted. And other than that, I mean, but this is still a good figure here you've got here in front of me. But
yeah, absolutely.
But it's still definitely. But you've got both of them, and but I obviously, I think there's a market for you to have both of them. So
well, yeah, and that's the other thing that some of the fans are out there. It's like, wow, X Plus would put out a figure from this very film in that pose. And then they might put out another figure from the exact same film in a different pose, and it's almost like, oh, they're milking me. They really need that extra $200 for me because Godzilla, instead of doing this, he's doing this. He's slightly got his head crooked to one side or the other, and it's just like, oh, I don't want to buy two from the exact same film, but at the same time, they did, like Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. In one of the scenes, he's actually grabbed either two eyeballs or two eggs out of him. He's some sort of, part of the Smog Monster, and he's holding them in his hands. And that was one of the poses, actually, from that film. And they wanted to make a figure of that. And they've got a figure of that suit in different poses. And it's like each one of them, $150, $200, $300, however they've marketed it, because he's in that certain pose, that it's like, oh, now I've got to buy that. Some people are completionists. They have to own every single one.
Yep.
I'm fine with maybe owning, here and there. There's a few monsters I could take or leave. There's a few of them that if I were given one, of course, it's going on the shelf. But it's like, would I seek it out? Maybe not so much, because it's not one of my favorite monsters and all that. This one is definitely one of my favorites because these were great films and they were great monster fights. Of course, the character mechagodzilla himself is one that just keeps coming back, and there's a reason why, because the fans like him. There's some of the other monsters you can kind of take or leave. They've been maybe in one film, and that's all they are. And it's interesting. You see how many fingers he's got. 4 fingers, and that is something that in cartoons and a lot of animation and even CGI monsters and all of that, they always kind of keep that consistent, not to give them 5 fingers to be human-like, but to be creature-like. And actually, I think that's probably something in animation like The Simpsons. I don't know. There's probably somebody who knows this, that they don't have 5 fingers ever usually in cartoons. I don't even think Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny or any of those guys have 5 fingers like a human. I think they all have something like 3 fingers and a thumb, actually. So, yeah. It's just they want
There's some kind of psychology going on there with that.
Probably because it's cheaper to animate by leaving them out, actually. Harry Harryhausen, when he did the octopus and it came from beneath the sea, his only has, I think, 6 tentacles, actually, instead of 8. So because it's easier to animate, fewer of them. But anyways, So, that's our X Plus figure. I really like it. It's going to be a great part of the collection. I'm running out of shelf space because they take up so much room, and I just can't stop. I'm kind of an addict out here for these guys, but really appreciate this figure, and thank you to all those out there who were able to provide this. And I know that my friend Chris Olio's out there probably gave all of them a great deal on this figure. He's awesome about finding these kinds of things, and also making sure that they make sure when they purchase, because they're not monster fans like I am, that they get something that I don't already own.
Right.
That has almost happened a few times, I think. And they go back to the collection. It's like, oh, he has this one, he has this one, he has this one, and so what's available? So, but anyways, And thank you, Joe, for being here on your first Monster Report and unboxing episode, and we're definitely going to have you back on another episode. We'll talk probably some monsters and other genres and all of that. But thank you for being here for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be on my first Monster Report and learning a little something, a little bit more about monsters.
All right. We definitely have a kaiju addict here in the making. Yeah, I've been working on him. But thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Monster Report. We'll catch you later.